there. And let's get our friend David involved. And David, thank you very much. He says, get rid of Machado. He's a negative aura on your team. He snaps at reporters because he doesn't understand the word assess. Reporters need to use smaller words with a childlike evaluate. Then you get in a fight with umpires over one call?
Well, at the end of the day, the reporter asked the basic question, and he snapped at the reporter. You know, you can't ask that question. You need to ask a better question than that. It doesn't make any sense at all. So that's Machado has just been standoffish in chunks of time. He's always talking, but sometimes it's more coach speak, player talk than it is anything of real content. At the end of the day, great everyday player, but at the end of the day, a 2.11 average in the postseason with the Orioles, the Dodgers, and now the Padres here. And to him to get snappy with reporters, that I thought that was really poor. Some might be the opinion it was a bad question, but the media's got a right to ask whatever question they want.
Yeah, that's a crazy question. But I'll tell you what, something's going on here with the podcast. I have been removed from the screen, so it's going to be all you, Hacksaw. I'll just say this. I don't think what Machado said to that reporter was a bad thing. He didn't like cuss out the reporter. He didn't snap back. He just looked back at the reporter and smiled. And he said, "What do you mean assess the season? We just lost." Well, of course. I mean, they're feeling the pain of that, just like Padre fans are feeling the pain. And what do you expect Machado to say in that? You know, is he going to suddenly come up with this nicely packaged, perfect corporate speak response? Nah, man, he was feeling it. And we want dudes on the team that are feeling it with us.
His specific statement was, you need to ask a better question. Okay, move on. Next one. David, thank you for being with us long distance. Okay, Dodger fans recommend the Padres keep looking for superstars like Darvish, keep lionizing bad guys like Machado. Don't critique your mediocre minor league system. Well, Dodger fans have a right to feel good because you're still playing baseball, and the Padres are not playing baseball anymore. But at the end of the day, the Padres use their own currency. Their currency is the farm system, and they've traded it away 4 different times in the 11 years under A.J. Preller, and it hasn't worked out. Last I checked, they've not been to the National League Championship Series and won. Last I've checked, they've not gone to a World Series yet, while the Dodgers have obviously had much more success in postseason play. So Dodger fans have a right to chirp. I think the bigger question, does the blueprint that Preller has presented for 11 years, is this really the right way to run this franchise? What is his ownership going to do? John?
Well, what would you do differently? I mean, you know, okay, let's say, you know, hindsight's 2020. Maybe they should have signed Bryce Harper instead of Manny Machado, you know, in 2019. But you get down to this, you got a long-term deal. Whenever Preller makes these deals, everyone is thrilled. You know, they said, "Oh, we got Machado. This is awesome." And now we have Machado, and now suddenly people are saying, "Oh, get rid of him." You can't get rid of him. It's going to take that salary. You got to find a way to make this work. So, I mean, I look at this, and yeah, those are big deals that they gave away, and Darvish is going to be an anchor. I mean, the math don't lie there. I'm not bagging on Machado on this whole thing. I mean, I think you've got to look beyond that. You've got to look at the rest of the roster as well, because Machado wasn't the reason that they lost. I mean, if anything, he was the reason they at least won one game of the playoffs.
That being said, though, his lifetime career is 211. That's not good. That's not superstar good in the most important time of the year for anybody.
But we all praise Clayton Kershaw, even though he's terrible in the postseason. So it's like a double standard here. The Dodgers are the boys in blue, and the Padres are the little sister that's got a bunch of bad attitude guys on the team. It's just the narrative is overplayed. Yeah, I think it's a double standard, Machado versus Kershaw.
Okay, Fligel, we'll just see where this goes. It's going to be a very interesting offseason. I agree with John that they can't move these people, but I don't understand how they're going to fill all the holes if they let so many more people go, because obviously it's not going to be the same roster again next season. Injuries have a lot to do with that too. Okay, John, next one.
Okay, let's go here to our buddy Angel. And he says, "Hey, it's a long shot." Here you go.
I think it hits some home runs at Petco Park. There's no doubt about it. But at what price tag? I don't know that the Padres could take on a $30 million acquisition. And by the way, we know who represents him, Scott Boras. So that becomes an issue. And the other factor is, Alonso's got a home in New York. He's been there forever, and he's become he's kind of a rock star, polar bear in the Big Apple. So I'd have a hard time believing he'd leave, and I'd have a hard time believing that the Mets would lowball him. Now the Mets obviously need some more pitching, but that's big market. Number one, New York. They can probably afford a $30 million a year guy, and I think John mentioned right at the onset of the podcast, that's probably the price tag for him.
Yeah, he's a perfect fit for the Mets, and he signed that deal. I think it's 1 year, and he can always opt out, so he has an opportunity to renegotiate his deal and get a little bit more. But wasn't last season? Wasn't he a free agent, and no one was really biting? So I don't know how many other people are going to put in bids for him, but re-signing in New York just makes too much sense.
Yeah, I think it was a 3-year deal, but he could opt out after years 1 and 2, and I think that's what he will do. But that's strictly, I can do this, and then you can make a different offer, and I'll look at that offer. I think as we're talking here, going to winter baseball, maybe I think the Polo stays in New York. Okay, thanks, Angel. John, next one.
I was going to say, it's just the perfect nickname for him. He looks like a polar bear. It's the whole thing. Okay, now let's go back to David. He answered one of our questions here. He says the Saudi investment fund is the sovereign wealth fund. Basically, same bank account that paid us.
Exactly, and that's why I use the term blood money, and that's why I use the phrase whitewashing their sins. So that's where it is. I just don't understand how they can continue to fund something that nobody gives a damn about, and why these golfers think it was okay to do this, to take blood money, and should be allowed back on the PGA Tour without paying a penalty for violating their tour card.
Yeah, I think, there's more to life than just money. We've talked about guys that are taking less money so they can have complementary players around them. But, you got to have integrity and character, and you don't want to go to work, for a bad guy, just because you're going to make more money. You can't do that. That's a one step too far. So, yeah, this is blood money. I don't know how the whole thing's going to be resolved, but I don't know. Has anyone thought that the reputation of the Saudis has been sort of whitewashed and they look at them in a more positive light? I'm not sure.
I don't know if the world is paying attention, but world leaders, I think, pay attention. Exactly. Okay, David, thanks for joining us. Move on.
Okay, let's talk a little hockey with Jeff. He goes, go Anaheim Ducks and San Diego Gulls.
Well, they've made their roster cuts, and the Ducks are getting ready to open the season. The only words that I'm going to use in any conversation, Ducks equal playoffs. That's the way it should be. They've invested. They did re-sign 2 of their top young players to big contract extensions. They've added vested veterans, the Chris Kreiders of the world, coming on board. I think they've got every component covered in terms of youth, in terms of skating ability, in terms of grit, and then now in terms of veteran leadership. They got to be in the playoffs this season, period, exclamation point. In terms of the Ducks and what they send to San Diego, most of their players have been sent. And in fact, this is kind of a unique set of circumstances for the Gulls. This might be the youngest group of veteran AHL guys they've ever had, because they've returned Igor Sedorov, Nestorenko, a whole group of guys that got cups of coffee up top, coming back to start the Gulls season here. The only one that we don't have a clarification yet is Beckett Seneca. He was the number 1 pick 2 years ago out of the Ontario Hockey League. He scored a ton of goals. He was only 19 years of age. At this point, he can't be sent to the Gulls unless the NHL and the Canadian Hockey Leagues make an agreement. There was a proposal that every team could send one 19-year-old to their American Hockey League affiliate to start the season, but that has not been signed yet. So I don't know whether Seneca is going to stay with the Gulls and practice. He can play 9 games before it becomes a salary cap issue, or maybe he plays 9 games and then he winds up going to play for the World Championships. I don't see any benefit of Beckett Seneca, a big winger, going back to the Ontario Hockey League, but he can't get to the American League right now. I do think the Gulls are going to have a better team this year because they've got all their young goal scorers from last year back. They've got about 5 vested veterans, and they've added a couple more to the AHL roster, guys that have played in this league prior who are older players. So they need a bounce-back season because at one time they used to draw 10, 11,000 per game and make the playoffs every year. And said it's been 4 years of non-playoff hockey here, and the crowds have really dwindled. So I'm kind of optimistic that this roster, as it's now being presented for opening night, they play at Coachella Valley. I think they open the AHL season on Friday. I think this will be a better Gulls roster. And in terms of, like I said, Ducks, equal playoffs, got to be in the playoffs. John?
Got to be in the playoffs. Yeah. I mean, we've been talking a lot about all these other NHL stars, McDavid, the Kasparov kid with the Minnesota Wild, even McTavish with the Ducks getting signed. Were any of those guys like doing a holdout because all the other players are in camp right now, or were they under contract?
Well, they're under contract. The thing is, all those guys could have been either restricted free agents or, in McDavid's case, an unrestricted free agent at the end of this coming season. And guys don't want to play their final year without a guaranteed contract, but it was term and dollar. How long is it going to be, and what's my average salary going to be? And they finally got solved. And Kaprizov got the phenomenal money in Minnesota at $17 million. McTavish is getting $7 to $8 million. They just paid the defenseman Jackson Lacombe, all-time record $9 million on defense in Anaheim. And then McDavid, of all things, McDavid today, just before noon, agrees to a $12.5 million contract per year when most everybody thought he was going to go for $18 million. He decided to stay in Edmonton with the extension for $12.5 to keep all the other players on the roster. That's pretty unique.
Wow. This is a great month. You got postseason baseball. You've got hockey and basketball starting up. Football is rolling. I mean, this is a great time.
Okay, next question.
Okay, this is a good one because we're kind of getting near first pitch. And this is from JDS Third. Phillies and Dodgers are a different.
Oh, there's no doubt. Now, Philadelphia is not what Philadelphia was early. Philadelphia, losing Zach Wheeler is huge at the front end of the rotation. He's gone for the entire season. Aaron Nola has bounced back. He had missed a long portion of the season with shoulder woes. Their bullpen was a little shaky, etc. And of course, Bryce Harper's had multiple injuries. He's not hitting for power, and Castellanos has kind of become a platoon guy. So Philly is not banging the ball outside of Schwarber the way Philadelphia has hit the ball in recent years. And I'll tell you what, that ballpark, these games, Dodger lineup's really damn dangerous. You got the Dodgers in Philadelphia; they can both hit home runs. Dodgers obviously got the better starting pitching. So, this is game 2 tonight. We're going to wrap this up quickly. Game 2 tonight's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, this is to me the marquee series at this stage of the playoffs because these two teams are loaded. It's red versus blue. I mean, what better matchup in America can you have than that? I don't know. I these on the Phillies. The Dodgers have personalities, but they're kind of all mild-mannered dudes, where you got a lot of swagger, with the Phillies, and I like to see that. And to me, Schwarber is such an unusual kind of a player where, I mean, he was dogged all the time when he was with the Chicago Cubs. And I forgot entirely he played for the Nationals, but now the guy is like world class with the Phillies.
He's made himself a better outfielder. I mean, at points in time, he'd get killed out there trying to catch fly balls. He's made himself a better outfielder, but obviously he strikes out a lot still. He's a .253 hitter. But when you hit 53 bombs, that makes up for it. And by the way, John, he's an unrestricted free agent November 1st. Think about that.
Oh, jeez. Okay. I'll recommend this to AJ Preller. Don't sign Schwarber unless, I mean, we need defense on this team.
I concur. All right. Thanks for the input there. Move on, John. Next one.
Okay. And let's go down here and we'll go to, let's try to sneak one in before the first pitch. And let's go here to Ricardo. He goes, I love the idea of flexibility, but Preller has already depleted the farm system, which could have provided affordable solutions.
I'll say this in defense of AJ. His ability to scope and sight certain players, certain styles to fit what San Diego needs. I mean, his ability to go, I use the term, shop on aisle one at Dollar General, he's been pretty impressive. I mean, Gavin Sheets, pretty good acquisition. He does it on an annual basis. And his ability to go abroad to go get the Hyson Kims of the world from Japan or Korea, that's been pretty impressive too. Again, I go back to my theory, boots on the ground. He's got people everywhere. So he can find guys, and he's got good scouts to do it. So I trust that he will do some of that. Again, there'll be new guys coming in on one-year deals, new guys coming in from abroad on multi-year deals, and we'll just see if it works out. But if Cease is gone and they have problems signing King, we don't know if Musgrove will ever be Musgrove again. And Darvish, he's got, I think, elbow problems, and maybe he retires. That's an awful lot of guys off that rotation that won't be back, and they have no farm system ready. Farm system's been traded away. So I will say this: November, going into the winter baseball meetings, it's going to be fascinating because he's going to have to add stuff here. John?
For the longest time as Padre fans, we were so angry they never spent any money. And, talk about aisle 10 at Dollar General. We always talk about Kevin Towers doing the dumpster diving, and he'd find a few gems. But we were like such a different level back then in the 80s and 90s and the 2000s. It's nice to be up on a higher echelon in terms of spending money and having a general manager that's like really willing to put himself out there. But to Ricardo's point, we have given up a lot. I say we like I'm the Padres. Padres have given up a lot of talent. I saw a line comparing Luis Ariz with Jacob Marcy, because that was part of that deal with the Marlins Padres, and Marcy looks a hell of a lot better than Luis Ariz did last year. I mean, you could go back and second guess every one of these deals, but at the time, every time Preller made these big moves, we loved him for it. And we knew we were giving up a lot, but we still loved him for it. And now it's buyer's remorse.
Now the onus will be on ownership. Don't come back to the fans after you raise ticket prices 57% over 5 years. Don't come back to these fans and say, we're cutting this payroll from 211. Don't dare do that. Don't take the sucker down to the 190s right now. This is a product that's hot. This is a baseball town that loves this franchise. Don't change the way you're doing business. You're going to change the roster. I know you're going to change the roster. But John, we wrap it up. I really appreciate all the fans for being so patient. We made an agreement. We would try to get this podcast done before the first pitch of the Dodgers and Phillies in Philadelphia Game 2. We will be back here on Thursday at 1:30. We're going to do it again. John, I have to tell you this, that you look out over my shoulder here on the lake by my cottage. Today was the final day of what we call Indian summer, warm, 70 degrees. Autumn arrives tomorrow, and by Wednesday, they say it's going to be rainy and 33 degrees because we get all the seasons up here in the northern Adirondacks. John, good job keeping this podcast rocking and rolling, and we'll look forward to talk to you again on Thursday.
Okay, bundle up out there, Lee, and we'll see you on Thursday.
And